Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, fields and streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The coyotes run all night. It's music to my ears and in my sights. I've got this hunting fever down in my bones. Glad my daddy taught me everything I know. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where dreams are made, trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. Outfitter is our name.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday night. Welcome to On Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters. As always, I'm with you tonight. My name's Trinity, and we've got Matt Woolwine with us, but looks like your name tonight's changed again, buddy.
That's right, buddy. Look here.
I see that. Says Paw. We'll talk about that in just a few moments as we got a very special announcement tonight. We hope everybody had a great week, had a great weekend, and has a good start to this week. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you all have not done so, please like and share this post. Get all the word out there about On Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters. Folks, we got another great show for you tonight. We are excited to finish up our 3-part food plot series. We've done food plot 101 with Ben Moore talking about basic food plot strategies. Last week, we were joined by Randall Alcorn as we talked about food plots 201, advanced food plot techniques and plannings. And tonight, we finish up with another gentleman from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, Jacob Steward. We're talking about food plots 301, and this is going to be talking about timber stand improvement and advanced plots. So you do not want to miss out. You know, food plots, Matt, is something that really, you know, you're missing the buck on if you're not doing. As we've learned already, they could be as simple or as technical as you want to make them. And it can be as simple as a few hand tools to the biggest of equipment.
Yeah. You know, we've labeled this kind of food plots, but really we went into several different aspects of complete habitat management, really. You know, food plots is just one part of it. But, you know, as you said tonight, we're going to be talking about timber stand management. And, you know, we're discussing a lot of things that really food plots is kind of the base of, and then we're just kind of expanding on that. So surely to goodness, somebody out there can find something out of these 3-part series that they can implement on their own property.
Absolutely. And, you know, whether you do a little or you do a lot, doing something is doing something, and it means the world to, our our wildlife and habitat management. And man, we just can't do enough. If you look at various species, especially over the last 10, 20 years, so much has changed. And at the end of the day, the majority of, success or failure comes from habitat management. And, if we look at species like the grouse, and other things, habitat's everything.
That's right. That's right. The food part of it is one portion of the pie when it comes to, needing cover, needing nesting habitat, needing, critters they've got to feel comfortable and they've got to feel secure in order to come out into them fields and things. So, when you talk about just going straight from hardwood timber into a food plot, they don't feel real safe right there. And so, talking about feathering those edges and different things like that really gives those critters a lot of confidence to come out there and spend time and be able to browse long enough or graze long enough to really get the benefit of that higher protein food plot.
Yep, absolutely. So we're excited to have these gentlemen on, and we appreciate Jacob taking time out of his busy schedule. And let me tell you something, man. I mean, he is the private lands coordinator. We've got him for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Got him at our fingertips to talk about all this stuff. And I hope people tune in. If they don't tune in now, if they tune in later, and really take advantage of this. Man, I don't know why all these messages and this name change and everything for those that's not kept up with us. I mean, here's our biggest fan says, hi, Papa, congratulations. Hi, Mama, talk about Jill, congratulations. Here comes Gator Paul says, hey, y'all, Paw not looking any prettier, but congratulations. That's
more
right.
Gray, Paul, more gray.
That's right. Hey, let's see what they're talking about. So tell us about this right here, Matt.
First time I ever seen it. I don't know what's going on there. No, that's our boy there, James, wearing the dad hat, and him and his girlfriend Isabel have welcomed to the world Kason Thomas, and so there's Kason there.
Yeah. There's Paw.
We're starting to expand the TLC family quite a bit. We had Tyler Smith on here. I know everybody's seen Tyler in the frog gigging video and talking about turkey hunting. He's been on the show a few times now, but Tyler himself's kind of a new member of the TLC family. And of course, they brought Eleanor into the picture, their new baby girl. I believe the day after Father's Day, the morning after Father's Day, and now here we are with Kason. So expanding pretty rapidly.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you what, you talk about a handsome little fella. I got to be down this weekend and be there for everything, and just very fortunate, very blessed. So thankful Mama Isabel and baby Kason is doing good, man, and everything was good. Of course, there's a Pawpaw, and what are we calling Jill?
What are you getting called?
Meemaw?
A Nene or a Mimi or a Mama
Granny?
or Granny?
Oh, goodness. But there's little Kason Thomas, and 7 pounds, 11 ounces, born at 5:38 on Sunday. Sunday morning, wouldn't it?
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. So, so glad to be part of that, man. Congratulations to you all, and glad I get to be a little part of it, man. Thank you very much. Old Pawpaw Woolwine. Let's see here, man. What else we want to talk about? Here's another one of my favorite little fellers too. Talking about our good buddy Hunter Harless. You've seen Hunter on here several times, but man, Hunter is a killer. His dad Nathan is on here, and he loves the outdoors. And I want you to listen. Now we've talked about turkey tent revivals with you and your crew, and we've talked about all kinds of stuff. We've seen Hunter do his stuff, but look here, as Hunter caught a catfish on a topwater, and I want you to listen to this excitement, not only in him but also in Papa Nathan too.
No, it's a catfish, son. No, that ain't a bass. That's a catfish. Wind it. Wind it.
Little catfish?
Yeah. It's a big catfish. Wind it, son.
I mean, he has to stand up, man. He has to stand up to get over the rail to be able to fish, and him catching catfish like that.
Oh, my goodness, Hunter.
He's going to be under them rocks with his dad real soon.
Come on. Come on, you got really light line. Lift it up. Lift that rod tip. Lift that rod tip.
I don't think this up.
Lift that rod tip, son.
Let's keep on it.
I know, it's fighting. It's fighting. Watch.
Get it, get it.
You gotta keep fighting it. It's a big catfish, dude. Bring it to me. Bring it to me.
Is it channel?
What did you just catch, Hunter?
A catfish.
Look at that.
Is it awesome?
Yeah.
Way to go, Hunter. And talking about Hunter's turkey harvest this spring, he was also able to harvest a banded turkey. And there's his certificate from Kentucky Park and Fish and Wildlife, and his gift card for that, detailing all that information on him, and just a great program with Fish and Wildlife. It couldn't happen better to happen to a better little fellow right there. And Nathan said that was on 4-pound test line. He fought that big cat in. So very good. Way to go, Hunter. Congratulations, buddy. Gator Paul called me Uncle Trinity. I guess I'll take that. I'll take that. I like that. I guess that'd make me a great uncle then, wouldn't it?
Funkle. You're a funkle.
I'm a funkle. Our very own Chris Meade says, congratulations, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Very good. Also, man, we got some other videos submitted. Now, I'm not going to say where these come from. I don't want to give away any clue to where these may come from. But we're going to show you a couple of videos here. Just I really like these videos. Here's a velvet buck. A nice 8-point velvet buck already. And this is July, so he's still got a little more antler growth. And long leg McGee coming through there. Man, that bear has the longest legs. Look at the.
Yeah, like he's on drywall stilts, buddy. He's having a hard walking.
Oh goodness! And you know something? I owe you an apology.
I like that.
You like that? I'm glad you like that, man.
Yeah.
I am glad. And I don't think that I've done this, and if I did and it's a repeat, it's okay. But I think I forgot to announce your birthday on the show. Did I forget to announce your birthday on the show?
I don't remember really.
I don't think. What, did I forget it?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say yes or no, but I don't remember.
You know what, buddy? Happy belated birthday. And in grand fashion, we got to go out and celebrate it. And I think we need to show everybody the celebration. What do you think?
Sure.
1, 2, 3. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Feliz cumpleaños a Robert. Jennifer López. Feliz cumpleaños a
ti. He got the old sneak attack on you.
Yeah, that old big fella there in the back, he told me to look over there. It was Lopez. What's her name? Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer
He
Lopez.
told me for Lopez, and then he slapped me in the face with that whipped cream. I guess that's what I get for trying to look at.
That's right. That's what you get, baby. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I am excited to bring on our guest. Let's bring him on, Mr. Jacob Steward, the private lands coordinator for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Man, Jacob, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us tonight.
I appreciate you having me. Anytime I can get out and talk and preach habitat management is I love it. So I'm hopefully I won't talk too long, but there is a lot of good information to get out. And please, anybody out there has questions, feel free to chime in and have a conversation about this.
Absolutely. Anybody's got questions, I hope they send a comment, because tonight is a rarity to be able to sit down with you gentlemen, Randall last week and now yourself, and to be able to have you, for the next little bit to talk about this stuff. Man, the old mentality, especially over here in the East, is, the extent of people's, deer season or pre-season ability. And Matt just totally left. I wonder, did the storm get him? They're getting storms down there, but that's okay. We'll keep on. But the extent of people's wildlife management or wildlife attracting a lot of time comes from a bag, corn or attractants, maybe a little bit of mineral. But, habitat management and wildlife management is so much more than that.
It is. And the idea of creating a landscape that is a food plot or a landscape that a species can flourish is the goal. It's not just a one thing or one little thing that you're going to use for attractant. You're missing the what you can really have. You can have so much more if you put just a little bit of effort into it and manage your property in such a way that's feeding that deer what he needs for the whole year. Not just the big buck, but the fawn, the doe that's feeding the fawn. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that keeping good, healthy does is just as important as a good, healthy buck, because a lot of the good genetics that are feeding your bucks are coming from your doe. So all of it's important to keep a landscape set up for a species to flourish, being deer, turkey, quail, grouse, bear, you name it. It's important to think about the whole aspects in a management for 365 days a year, and not just for the little time that you're going to hunt the species. And the idea behind a food plot, when we say food plot, is I like the term, a better term of attractant plot. The food plot aspect of it is if you're growing, if you think you're going to grow one thing that's going to feed all the deer you want for the whole year, you're probably a little bit mistaken on that aspect. And doing some of these management activities that Randall talked about, and I'm going to talk about tonight, are going to increase the amount of food that's on the landscape. Now, what I will say is when you create a landscape full of food, you actually do probably make it a little bit harder for you to kill that deer because that buck doesn't have to travel as much. And let's be honest, when we get those big bucks is when they're up searching for either food or for reproduction. So those two things are what get them up moving. If you have a landscape full of food, he doesn't have to move as much. And you'll see this in years where we have a good acorn production. If a buck doesn't have to get up and move very much, the likelihood of you running across it is less. And you'll also see, if people watch their cameras, look how many times you get a daylight picture of that mature buck at your corn pile. That corn pile is a safe place he can come eat, and he knows it. So he's going to stay bedded down until he knows he's safe to use the corn pile. So, I don't necessarily think the corn pile is the best thing to attract the big buck. You can attract deer, but for your bigger bucks, it's personally, I think a good attractant plot with the correct habitat around it to make it feel comfortable to get up and come to the plot is where you're going to kill your big buck.
And I know a lot of people is going to disagree with me, but this has just been my experience over the years. I tell myself every year, Trendy, what what you need to, if you look at studies and you look at research, you really need to feed a little within the legal window. You need to feed a little bit of corn. If you're going to plan on feed a lot of corn, you need to feed a little bit of corn all the time that you can, because if you just hit those deer with corn all once and they're not used to it, it can cause a lot of problem, acidosis, all kinds of stuff. But with that being said, I always tell myself every year, just you need to wait till November, December and put the corn out. You need to find a better food source. It's kind of like the old saying goes, the saying talking about the Bible, give a man a fish, feed the man, teach a man to fish and feed the village. If you live by a bag, or you live by, just a little bit of attracting or what you buy from the store, you're not going to get the full potential. But if you do a few management practices and build as you go, you're going to open yourself and your property up to so much more. And a lot of these practices are not going to be overnight. You're going to have to stay with it and be committed to it to really start seeing the dividends from what you're doing.
Yeah, it's important to understand now in your neck of the woods of East Kentucky, there are some people who own a deer's home range, probably in the realm of 640 acres or so. They're across the majority of the state, though. Most people own 50 acres. Actually, in the counties I've looked at in Eastern Kentucky, most just regular landowners only own 50 plus acres, around 50 acres. So the idea of making your property the best it can be, to keep them there, make them feel safe and produce as much food as you can should be the goal. And the ultimate goal is working with your neighbor, being a good neighbor, standing together and working together on the whole idea behind what habitat needs to be done to produce not just the one big deer, but multiple big deer that you all can hunt. And that's another point to just drive home is the idea that this landscape is made up of a bunch of small landowners that need to work together or come to some kind of conclusion of what they need to do to make the population on the landscape better. So all this stuff feeds into it, but you got to start small on your property and build towards that.
That's right. And I'm excited to talk about some things tonight. I think too, when we hear the words like habitat management, or we hear, even food plot or things like that, I think sometimes we attach a big price tag, which it can be. It can be a big price tag. We attach, big priced equipment. We attach a lot of things that we may feel is out of our reach. But a lot of this, even the advanced stuff, can be done by simply taking time, hand tools, and a little bit of know-how and knowledge. People will be surprised at what they can accomplish on a big scale with those simple things.
Yes. I think the majority of the practices I'm getting ready to talk to you about, a $20 hatchet, $5 spray bottle, and herbicide, you can get most of them done. A chainsaw may be the biggest thing you need. And when you step into the forest aspect, you're also stepping into the idea of not just forest management, but the idea that you could possibly have timber management that can, if you done correctly, logging can actually work towards the good of your pocketbook as well as meet the habitat needs that you're lacking. The whole idea behind all this stuff together in my working plan, I'm a big believer in a working landscape that wildlife is a byproduct in. So if we work towards making money off of it and doing it in a responsible way, wildlife can be a byproduct of our everyday living. We just create good habitat because we're managing in such a way that that benefits wildlife. So that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. And, also the things that we do, especially over here in our neck of the woods now, when you get to the central and you get to the west, more in agricultural country, it may be just a little bit different, but we're timber heavy over here. We're forest heavy. Yeah. And, being able to, I don't know if the words manipulate, but being able to manage your forest, sort of like a food plot, there isn't enough ground over here, and probably people don't have the ability to put out enough food in the ground and plantings that will compare to timber stand management practice or timber stand improvement practices. So knowing, what we're getting ready to talk about is going to improve your landscape dramatically and increase the amount of food available to your wildlife, not just deer. I mean, compounded very much as far as, trying to put it in the ground. Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah, you're very much so. And here in a minute, when we start getting into some of these pictures and the slides, I'll go over the idea of what the diet of a deer is. And you'll see pretty well what you're trying to get to. Is the idea of the food plot is not providing what the deer needs for the whole year. So the idea of managing, having the food plots and using them as part of your management tool and in that toolbox. And I guess that's what the biggest point here is there is no silver bullet. There is no one thing that you can do that I would say you only need to do this and you'll offset everything else. There's a toolbox of tools, anywhere from timber management, open field management, to food plots. How you use those tools together and the landscape that they're in is going to be what results you get. So the importance of the thought process of where your food plot's going. Is a deer going to come use that? Is it not? Is it right split between a road that is going to cause a headache? Is when you're doing the forest stand improvement, are you creating bedding areas in an area that they'll utilize and then use the food plot that you put out or the attractant plot that you put out? All that kind of stuff goes together. So your food plot is one thing, but it's a habitat, it's a management tool, not the silver bullet. All these other things we're talking about today is just in more ways to increase the amount of food you have on the landscape, the amount of cover you have on the landscape, and the importance of putting those things in close proximity is how you increase populations and increase the amount of time the deer is going to spend on your 50 acres. So that's the important thing to think about, is not just that the food plot's there that they may show up to, but how do you make sure that those does stay there? They're going to drive that big buck there. How do you make sure that, if you're talking about turkeys or small game, that they don't have to travel far? Because what happens if they travel far? The predator finds them. So that's the whole idea behind all this stuff, is getting it all situated so it makes sense and you capitalize on what you have on your property.
Very good. And Matt says, I'm a spectator tonight. Looks like, sorry. Matt's got storms rolling through. Y'all got storms rolling through central Kentucky there, Matt. That's fine. You chime in here anytime. Ready to pull these slides up, Jacob?
Yeah, we can jump right into it.
Okay.
You can go ahead and go the first one. So
okay.
Y'all going to see me look down my phone. I'm sorry, the slide, it's a little small, and I do apologize for that. But the gist of this slide is, if you look, the point I want to get across to is this breaks down throughout the year from spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So fall and winter. And if you look at it, the light blue on this chart is on the left, you'll see that anywhere from the spring, the deer are using browse, which let me make sure everybody understands what browse is. Browse is some kind of woody plant is what browse is what we're talking about when we say browse. So so any type of small sapling, any type of vine, anything like that is what we're talking about when we say browse. So let me make sure everybody's knows what that means. So browse, as you'll see in the blue, is the dominating food source for white-tailed deer throughout the whole year. And you'll see as it moves over time. The only other one that, the next one up there that's 40% in the spring is forbs. I'm sure Randall surely hit on what a forb was. A forb is what we call weed, a wildflower. Anything that's broadleaf, herbaceous plant is a forb. So if you look at this, if I'm going to produce something and want to put food on the ground for a white-tailed deer, obviously I want forbs and browse. Those are the two main things I'm looking for. That's where I'm striving to get, are those two things. If you look at the gray and autumn, that's mast. Mast would be anything you have soft and hard mast. Your hard mast are your oaks, your hickories, your walnuts, your hazelnuts, that kind of stuff. Your soft mast is your blackberries, your dogwoods, your persimmons, that kind of stuff. So if you look at this map or look at the forage here, mast is pretty big in autumn. Now, sometimes what happens with mast? We have a failure. So if you have a mast failure, all of a sudden that how much it's important right there really drops down. You got 20% in the autumn, so you need to have the browse there to make that available to fill that gap. So I just kind of want to get this across. Another chart here next to it just breaks it down in a different way. And if you look at this again, woody browse is at least 20%, if not 50%, up to 50%. The only thing that kind of gets in into a more percentage in the fall is your mast. Again, it's important to think through this and the idea of a failure. If you do have a failure, you want to be able to have food on the landscape for your deer. So if you plan for it, and we all know that we don't know if it's going to be a mast failure probably till mid-August, late September, till we really start looking up in the oak trees and see what's coming. By that point in time, you don't really have anything, even if you plant in the ground, that's going to sustain the deer, as they go into the winter. So that's where the browse really comes into it. And that's the take home I want to go with this idea is how important browse is. And this, we're just talking about food, nothing else. We'll talk about the other aspect of what the browse is also cover. So, what better aspect can you have than food and cover sitting there right next to each other? So that's the goal of this. So
yeah, and we talked last week about a median line. Those deer, keeping those deer. And for me, when we're talking about those attractant plots, or we're talking about food, you brought up a good point there a while ago. When that buck hits into that pre-rut phase, and we're talking about whitetail deer now. I like talking about habitat management and food as a whole for all species.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to focus on whitetail, especially when you're talking about this stuff. So it's whitetail driven. Keeping those deer above that mid line. So you draw a line, that's the median of the nutritional level that deer has or needs to sustain its minimal balance. Once those deer and you can always tell when a lot of the mast crop is gone, because once we get into winter, you'll see those deer start hitting the grass real heavy, especially in our neck of the woods. When you go out and you see more and more deer, you can pretty much say that the mast crop is gone. It's either short fell or it's all being cleaned up. But the more that you can do to help keep those deer close to that midline or that minimal nutritional value that their body needs, that they meet, is the more you're going to get on the upside with antler growth, health, body size, and everything. When a deer doesn't have a good mass crop year, when a deer doesn't get the nutritional value it needs, it dips down below that minimal value, and then that's when the struggle starts. And when they dip down, and then you get into spring and summer and fall when food is easier, instead of being at that minimal level or that median, and you're getting that bigger antler growth of those healthier deer, more fawns, more deer on your property, you're having to catch back up and play catch up to come back up. So you lose more potential than you have if you've done that habitat management to have more available to your herd. Am I correct?
That's correct. And the goal of this is to make it so the more an animal has to move to get the food, the more energy is wasting. If you're a cattle farmer, if the cow doesn't have to move much, all that he eats is going to go straight on his weight. Weight gains money cattle wise, but for, like you said, for deer, it's the health wise, getting them through those hard times, get to a point where there is maybe a little lack of food or they got to travel further. It doesn't take them down below that line. So yeah, exactly right.
Very good.
Yeah. So we're going to just show this picture, and I like showing this picture because this right here in central Kentucky, this is taken in Nicholas County on Clay Wildlife Management Area. This was all a cedar patch. So you see all the cedar trees right here. This was all just chock full of cedar. So we went through it, not providing much of any type of actual food resource. We went through and we cleared all these cedars out. Now, the good thing about this is with the agency, we've actually, if y'all have ever heard about the brush piles on the bottom of Cave Run Lake, this is where they came from. We cut them off here and then we sunk them in Cave Run so we can go catch crappie off of them. But the idea of using these little areas, and if you look at all those, the flowers right there, that's what we're talking about forbs. That's what we're talking about food that we've created. There is multiple different species there that deer are eating the heck out of. And it's just a natural occurring food plot is what that is. So Randall covered a pretty good aspect on this kind of stuff last week. So I just want to kind of start here and show that and show as we go from the field into the woods.
Yeah.
Go ahead. This right here is actually a clover plot. And if you'll see the trees on the edges look a little stressed, we actually went in here and we did what we call edge feather. And on this example, we didn't cut a single tree down. All we did was take a hatchet and a squirt bottle and hack them about 5 or 6 times, sprayed them, and did that for about 75 foot from the edge back. So what we're actually doing there is we're taking the transition zone from our clover plot and knocking it back. So it's going to start getting blackberries, a bunch of young trees coming up, and soft mast like your dogwoods and your wild plums and that kind of stuff will come in and basically make a nice soft transition zone from our food plot or our clover plot back into, so deer can come out and they'll have food from wherever their bedding area is all the way out to their transition into the clover field. And that's the important thing to think about is the comfort of the deer. If the deer is not comfortable coming out into your food plot, it's worthless because they won't be there to use it. So it's the thing to think about is how you make it so they feel comfortable utilizing the food plot. That could be with edge feathering. If it's a wide open area, you can plant taller grasses along it so they can come out to it and feel comfortable. Anything like that to help you work. So this is our next transition from the field into the woods. If you don't mind, hit the next one. This is one that's kind of practice of hinge cutting. It's kind of taken off here in the past few years, and this is a really good one. You basically are saying, okay, all I have is open woods. You can do this to create your edge as well. You basically cut it, and you're actually trying to leave some live wood onto the where it's that I can't point at the screen. It's where the hinge is, where it's fallen. This one right here, the goal is to put a little bit of life into it. If you do this correctly, you'll have, so the only part of the tree that's actually growing is the outer portion of it. So if you can leave one side of that attached, you'll actually get the top falling over, and you'll get sprouts coming off the top of it, leaning it, going up, which it makes it thick for cover. Deer can actually eat the tops of it off. And you'll also see sometimes if that doesn't happen, it'll sprout at the base, and you'll see the deer browse. And I'll show you some pictures of that as we go through here in a minute. But this creates some instant bedding cover and makes a nice thick area for a transition and opens up sunlight to get to the ground. The key is sunlight. Sunlight causes growth.
And talk a little bit, or maybe are you going to talk about basil a little bit later?
Basil bark?
Yeah.
Treatment?
I'm talking about opening the canopy up.
Yes, I'm going to talk about that in here in just a little bit. Yep.
Perfect. Now, what species are you targeting here with either hack and squirt or with hinge cut? What are you looking to leave, and what are you looking to cut?
So any of those stuff that you saw on that food thing is what we call mast. Anything that's a mast producer, which when I say that, I mean, your maples and stuff produce a seed that's considered a mast, but your soft mast, your persimmons, your dogwoods, your wild plums, your crab apples, I'm leaving those. I'm leaving my oaks. I'm leaving my hickories. And actually, I will take some hickories out sometimes because sometimes they'll take over. Hickories are more of a shade-loving tree, and in the right area, I may not want them there. I may thin them.
Leaving beech?
Beech, yep. You can leave beech, but I'll also warn you, though. Beech can be one of these species that fills your mid-story. It doesn't allow you light into. They're kind of a colonial type aspect, so you really got to watch with beech. Beech is one that you can leave, but you really got to watch it and make sure it doesn't take over. It's something you really got to pay attention to, especially in your neck of the woods in the east.
Yeah.
It'll crowd up your woods pretty quick. So we can jump to the next slide here. So this right here, this is a picture of forest stand improvement we did. And we just, like, the fire just went through here. So we killed out all of our mid-story trees and opened up the overstory. And I'll show you some pictures of that in just a minute. But you see all the some of the bigger trees in the background. Again, I'm trying to point, thinking y'all can see me pointing at them. But the trees in the background there, some of the bigger ones that aren't falling over, all the ones that are falling over are all 6+ inches, 6 to 8 inches maples that we deadened, and they rotted and went ahead and fell over. And what we're doing is burning to knock back the stuff smaller than that, and then open up the overstory for more light to hit the ground.
Very good.
If you want to go to the next one, I'll talk about it and show what it means. Trinity, when you're looking at this picture, can you see the difference between, you see the sun sitting there on the right side versus the left side?
Yeah.
So this right here, just by chance, I showed up and was able to get this sun right in the middle of where our project, our timber stand, our forest stand improvement project stopped. So everything on the right-hand side had our timber stand improvement or forest stand improvement done, where we took all the mid-story out. Everything on the left, we left alone. If you notice on the left-hand side, there is no green growing, no herbaceous cover, nothing coming up. On the right-hand side, you'll go ahead and you'll see how much sunlight's hitting it, how much more sunlight's hitting the ground, and the herbaceous vegetation starting to come up. This was, we deadened this in, it was probably in late February, maybe into January, but this picture was taken sometime about June. So it ain't had very long for it to grow, but you can already see the difference happening right there. And this is what I'm talking about, is this is an oak stand. So I've now taken an oak stand. If you look on the left-hand side, come fall, if there is no mast, there is no food. If you look on the right-hand side, if there is no mast, you have all kinds of browse available now for any type of for deer. And then if you think about and look at this at the point of turkey broods, if you put a turkey brood in the left-hand side, they're going to be picked off pretty easy. You take them to the right-hand side of another year worth of growth, they'll be able to walk through there pretty good and be covered. So the idea of creating cover and food together is a win-win. So this is what we call timber stand or forest stand improvement. It goes by both names. So the ultimate goal here, though, was to open up the canopy to start getting sunlight to the ground to get oak regeneration. So we can actually start managing this stand until you start getting oak regen coming up. And a lot of the state of Kentucky, oak is a disturbance type species that requires some kind of a disturbance to keep it on the landscape. A lot of our forest stands, the mid-stories are in more unwanted species like black gum, maple, beech, even to a point that we need to make sure we remove those out to make our next forest oaks. So this right here is a really important thing, especially in the eastern half of the state, to come to grips with, is the idea of doing this project. And it not only helps you with wildlife habitat, but also helps you in the future for your future woods of what you're going to have the next generation coming up.
Awesome.
All right. So this here is an example of, this was a old field that grew up, and it was nothing but locust, autumn olive, just a nasty a mess of species that weren't really just taking up room. So what we did here is we came in and hacked and squirted everything that was not high quality wildlife cover, and created more of what we call you may look at this called a savanna, where you have a whole lot of forbs, and then we left the oaks and the hickories scattered. So you have multiple different types of food sources here, with the ultimate goal of running fire through this, keeping it open, and hopefully gain some oak regen as we go. All right, fire. I know everybody, I don't know if you all have noticed it, but I was at Cave Run Lake here a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't see a quarter mile in front of me from the smoke from Canada.
Yep.
And it is something to be concerned about in the wildfire situation. But I can't say enough about the importance of prescribed fire and it as a tool to help you meet your management goals. It is, done safely. It's the most productive for the least amount of money that you can do. So prescribed fire, you saw we put that into, pretty much any situation you're talking about, from open field management to woods management. It helps set back succession and helps you use it as a tool, again, to start selecting for species that you want. There's a lot of species in Kentucky and a lot of ecosystems that are driven by fire and the aspect of using it. Your oak hickory system is one of those systems. And I'm also going to mention here, I totally forgot to put this in, but we have a Eastern Kentucky Habitat Initiative with the agency right now. And as we're talking about, habitat and the bigger landscape of stuff, in 2001, so in East Kentucky in the elk zone, there's 4 million some acres of land that makes up the elk zone. In 2001, there was 574,000 acres of open ground. That includes coal mine, that includes any kind of open ground, any kind of open fields down along the rivers, just any type of open ground. So 18 years later, in 2019, we were down to 257,000 acres of open ground. There's a lot of times I've heard people say that stuff has not changed in the past 20 years. And I would say if nothing's changed in the past 20 years, I know I've changed in 20 years. And the landscape,
I'm right there with you, brother.
And the landscape has too. it just does it in such a slow rate that if you're around it all the time, every day, sometimes you don't pick up on it. Out of all that acreage that disappeared, we also went from 20,000 acres of shrubs to 100,000 acres of shrubs. Trinity, in your country, in your coal mine country, what did that shrub? What shrub?
Autumn olive, brother.
There we go. So autumn olive came in, and we've started an initiative now with the agency of trying to start burning some of that coal mine ground to open it back up, to get the autumn olive back out of the system, and hopefully once we get it out, knocked back and under control, we can then have a discussion on if leaving it open is the right way or reforcing it to a better with better species, and have that conversation. But the first thing to do is get that autumn olive knocked out of the way, so we can actually put diversity back into the landscape. So I didn't have any slides for that. I wish I'd have put them in. I had some nice maps that showed what went where and how and over time. But stuff does change over time, and without some type of management, it's going to change. It's going to just get older.
Yeah. And we talk all the time about the change in elk. We are, of course, very elk focused. And one of the common denominator that keeps popping up is the habitat. The habitat change over the last 25 years, 20 years. So, started the program in 97 to today, there's been a huge landscape change. You've gone from active coal mines, reclaiming being done, reclaim projects being done every week, a smorgasbord of, different things being planted, and a fresh new buffet, if you will, for these elk to graze on. Now, since we've seen, coal mining, surface mining basically eradicated from our area, except for some few small areas. Now we've seen the landscape change, and this has been we're not talking 20 years. We're talking about over the last just decade, which is not very long at all. And it's really, changed not only the landscape, but it's also changed this one species. And, it's like we were talking about earlier. If you're not taking care of your land, if you've got that 50 acres and you're heavy on autumn olive, you're heavy on invasives, exotics, things like that, either you're managing it or the invasives and exotics will manage it for you, and you'll have something that'll grow up into, pretty soon in a very short amount of time that, unless you're a rabbit or an insect or a bird, you can't navigate through whatsoever.
No, and it's and really the hardest thing is if the stuff it takes away diversity. And I'll go back to this all the time, is diversity is good, just as good for wildlife management as in your 401k. You want diversity because stuff changes over time. If you have a diverse landscape, stuff can adapt to it. If you were set on we threw elk out here, we had 574,000 acres of open ground, and all we said was, okay, it's going to be here and they're going to thrive. If you just sit back and wait, it's already showing what happens. That'll shift, it'll change. And it's the importance of working towards and coming up with a goal and getting out on the ground. And we're talking about food plots here and the idea of it, and the whole idea behind, again, the food plot is the idea of adding diversity to your management system and making it all work together. So, timber harvest. This right here is on Fleming WMA. This here was a poplar cut. As you can tell, I think that's what you call clear cut. And the goal here, if you're looking at that skidder along the edge of those oaks, we actually thinned. We cut all the poplar up to the oaks, and then took out about 40% of the oaks for a little while, kind of like an edge feather, to soften the transition zone to get oaks and thickness in together, coming out into the poplar cut. This was more for a grouse aspect, but I promise you, in East Kentucky, we talk about coal mine ground being heavily used, elk will come in here and browse, deer will come in here and browse. This right here adds diversity. Now, I will say, again, timber management can be misused just as well as planting crops can be misused. You always got to think about how you do it and what the next stage is. And sometimes, like this right here, if we would have just taken out the poplar, all we would have had was a black gum stand. So we required them to cut everything down so we could have a nice, even-aged, forest coming up, and then we can come back in 15, 20 years and look at the stand and decide how we want to go with it next. I will say that make sure if you want to do forest management that because it is such a long growing species, you got to make sure that you're doing it right to make sure you get good production for the future. And sometimes you can do this where you can make it so you can come in and cut it in intervals, and instead of getting money one lump sum, you can stretch that over time. This is a good example how habitat management and the bottom line dollar can go hand in hand. Yep. This one right here is kind of hard to see, but on the left-hand side is an ash stump, and on the right-hand side, unfortunately, my fence that I had to fence out the deer got taken out by the tree. But that tree right there fell on it. The fence was up long enough for me to show this example. I don't know if you can see it, Trinity, but the one on the left is that the sprouts on it are only about knee high.
Yeah.
If you look on the one on the right, they're about 6 foot high. This is just showing the example of the browse and how hard they'll hit something. And this is solely deer. This is in Nicholas County. It has nothing to do with elk. But these stumps, when they're cut, can produce a lot of forage. And deer will come back over and over again and hit them. So the idea of when you do a hinge cut and when you use herbicide. So this was a timber harvest, so we didn't use herbicide on it. Sometimes you want to kill the tree straight out, so you use herbicide to kill it. Other times you just cut it down as low to the ground as you can, and you get those resprouts to create. It's going to create cover at low, but a lot of food is going to come out of that. Good species to do this with is black gum, maple, poplar, ash. I don't want you to go, well, some oaks, you can cut and they will eat them, but I don't suggest just run out and do that without some kind of guidance. But your black gum, your maples, your poplars, your dogwoods, your osage, your hedge apple, deer will actually eat the heck out of those resprouts. These are just good little ways to come through your edge or into your woods. If you have some merchantable trees, stuff that's just kind of there taking up space, cut it down and create a food source right there. Do this across your farm, make multiple ones of them.
Good deal.
Go on, Trinity.
That is the last slide.
All right, is that the last slide?
Yep.
I will want to talk about too, though, is the idea of bedding areas and the importance of thinking through where you make those and how you can do those in your woods. South side is going to be your warmer. South and west side are going to be your warmer sides. So the idea of creating some bedding cover on there for the winter midday, so deer can utilize that cover. And then as well as creating cover on your north side, which is going to be your cooler sides. And think about where those are and how they're going to get to the food plots. How are they going to move every around? And how do you make travel corridors to and from those? That's the kind of stuff. That's kind of like the next level. After you start thinking about using the tool of food plots is the idea of every other aspect. The key to wildlife management is making sure if you have the habitat on the ground that the species needs for 365 days a year. And to keep in mind that may change throughout the year. What you're hunting in the fall and the winter may not be suitable for the species in the spring and summer. So making sure you have all this stuff for the species on the landscape is really important. It'll make your food plot better. It'll make your property better. So that's really the take home I want to this is the next step of the food plot is the idea of creating habitat around it all. So there's food everywhere. So that's the key to it all.
Awesome. Very good. And once again, we've talked about so many aspects, over this 3-part series, from simple to advanced to even more advanced. But even though we're talking about more technical issues, some of these more technical issues are actually some of the more simpler ideals to do. And the thing that I want everybody to realize is we're not asking people to go out that maybe have never had any hand in, ag practices, timber stand improvement. We've talked about spray. There's laws and regulations against spray. There's all kinds of stuff. People don't have to go about this blind, or they don't have to go about this haphazardly. There's a lot of resources that you yourself and the department, and can't say enough good things about the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. And the number one place that they need to start at is fw.ky.gov, chock full of great information on almost anything wildlife and fisheries related, a good starting point, and it gets into a lot of deep content. But you're not asking people to do these practices just on a whim. There's actually a lot of good programs and information that they can get out there from the department.
Yeah, there's so as you mentioned when we first started this, I'm the private lands program coordinator. So what that means for you and going forward in your next step is the agency has 17 biologists stationed across the state. If you go to fw.ky.gov, you click on My County Contact, go to private lands biologist for your county. Reach out to them. They'll come give you a plan for free. Division of Forestry can write you a management plan for your forest. If you're looking to do forest management and you're interested in timber harvest. So there are resources for you. What I say is give us a call. Let us come visit your farm. Let us walk around with you, talk you through all these aspects. And at the end of the day, what my goal is to inform you on how you can incorporate wildlife management into your plan, not make wildlife management your plan. So the idea of wildlife management is a corporation, not we're pushing you towards something. At the end of the day, it's your property. We want you to make the decisions. We're just there to help you, support you, and getting you down the road, and getting you the information you need to make the right decision, how it needs to be on the landscape, where it needs to be. So please reach out to us. We also have I don't know, throw a little thing out here. We have a Facebook page. It's Kentucky Private Land Habitat Management is the name of it. We throw some up there 3 or 4 times a week on different habitat practices that we remind you to do, and kind of give you information just to keep you going. So by all means,
what was that Facebook page again?
Kentucky Private Land Habitat Management.
Awesome. Everybody needs to make sure that they like and follow that for sure.
Yeah.
Very good. We want to talk about these other slides real quick.
Yeah, we can talk about these. These are just a few references I wanted to throw out there. This first one here is forest improvement in the means of wildlife. And I will say, I apologize. This is from the University of Tennessee Extension, but it is a very good reference material. If you Google this name, I don't think I gave you the link for it, but yeah, if you flip through here, it gives you a whole lot of information about how to hack and squirt, chemicals to use, what you're shooting for. Again, read over it, try to understand it, but get one of our biologists or Kentucky Division of Forestry out there before you jump straight into it. It just has it's a really good reference document for you, and can kind of help you start thinking through the process of if it might be for you or not. There is, if you go back there, they actually did talk about, I did want to mention this, is some people going back one more slide. So right here, they're actually the gentleman up top is fertilizing his oak woods, and they found out that that does not increase the sweetness of the acorn or the amount of acorns on the tree. So some people, have heard that. So it's pretty interesting. But if you actually go through, actually the bottom picture, I think references the idea. What did increase the amount of acorns on a tree, though, is open it up so it can have more space and put more acorns on. So that's the kind of the idea of forest stand improvement, of little things. And the interesting thing, too, is I've heard statistics say that really probably only 40% of the trees that you have, your oak trees, are constant acorn producers. So the idea of knowing your farm, going out and looking every year and kind of mark trees that constantly produce acorns. And if you ever do any type of management, any timber harvest or anything like that, just leave a few of those trees. Pick out the trees that are going to produce and take you, kind of produce the seedlings or produce the acorns and seedlings for the next generation. So just stuff like that to think about.
Yeah. Great information, man. Once again, this is through the University of Tennessee. And, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If it benefits the wildlife and it's legit and factual and it's, the way it's supposed to be, we're all in this thing together. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
And then there's one other one. It's talking about the fresh tips on using fire. And this is what's really I like about this is there's a concept in here of actually going out and just burning around your deer stand. And they actually did some research that showed that just burning a 30-yard, 40-yard circle around your deer stand increases the amount of browse, and not just browse, but palatable browse. So the fresh shoots are more palatable, and you'll basically attract deer into that area around your deer stand. So just basically taking a leaf blower, blowing it around, burning it off, and then you've created a food plot right around your deer stand in the woods. So it's something to think about, and it talks about some fire and unit for old field management, knocking trees back out of your fields, and that kind of stuff. This one here is out of, you know what? I can't remember if this was Craig. Yeah, this is Craig Harper out of Tennessee as well.
And if you're wondering about the fire stuff, you can go back to last week's show. And, Randall, we popped those up there at the end. There were 3 dates, and you can that's a nice program. Can they find that on FW website as well?
It's actually, I don't think it's on our website at this point, but they can, if everybody can write down Jacob, JACOB .Stewart, STEWART at ky.gov. If you email me, tell me you're interested in fire, where you're at, I'll send you the links and everything on the information on how to get signed up.
And I'm going to put your email, if that's okay, in the comments.
By all means, put it out there for everybody.
That's Jacob. That's Jacob, JACOB .Stewart. That's STEWART at ky.gov.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Yeah. Very good, man. Man, what a lot of good information. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank, your whole team, Randall, everything that y'all do for private lands. I know it has to be a battle. Getting out of this traditional state of mind of, a bag of corn or a bag of sweet feed is where it's at. That stuff is pretty tough to overcome because that's what people have been, subject to for generations. And now that more than ever, I think with the price of grain, with the price of how everything has gone up, I think if landowners, and it doesn't matter if you own an acre, if you own 1,000 acres, if landowners will do just a few practices, if they'll focus in and hone in, well, I can do this. I don't have the equipment to do this, but I can do this. If they'll focus in and they'll just chip away at the rough edges on their property, one at a time, and really put a good effort into it, the amount of payback to them. No matter if it's you just like to watch the wildlife, or you just like to do the best you can for your wildlife, or whether you're hunting after a trophy animal, whatever it may be, you're going to get way better success and be more satisfied with your land.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, I don't know if Randall said it or not, but there are USDA programs that actually pay you money to do some of this management. So through us, we can help you navigate that arena on figuring out a plan, and then figuring out if there's resources to help get you the money to do this stuff. It is something that's out there. USDA. So NRCS, I think we spent close to $2 million for wildlife habitat last year alone through landowners. So the money's there. It's there for you. Please, sometimes I'll tell people it's a way to recoup some of that tax money you paid in. Come put habitat back on the ground. Let's do our conservation aspect and do your part. And I'll say one practice that'll help more than anything statewide: stay off your bush hogs from March until August. Just leave habitat there. Just stay off the bush hogs. There's a whole lot of young animals out there that if you mow that down, either you're going to hit them or they don't have the cover to get from one place to another. So if you can simply do that, that'd be a great help.
Yeah. Great information, man. Great information. And then here's that email one more time: jacob.steward@ky.gov. Whether you go back to last week's show with Randall, and he talked about a lot of programs and things that the department has, or if you send them Jacob an email, or just simply log on to fw.ky.gov. I'm telling you, if you've not spent some time on Kentucky Park Fish and Wildlife's website, you're missing out. And when I say, I'm talking about from huntables to non-huntables, pollinator, all things wild, all fisheries. You need to go over there and check it out. Ben Moore says great information. Appreciate that, Ben. Ben says you can come burn his tract anytime you want to.
Well, it's don't give me a call. We'll have a conversation.
There you go. And we appreciate Matt. Man, hope y'all are surviving the storms down there. And sorry that had a hard time. Man, Jacob, thank you very much. Appreciate your knowledge. Appreciate everything you do. Keep up the good work and keep fighting the good fight for conservation and our wildlife. We appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Folks, that's going to do it for On Air and Outdoors tonight. We hope that you enjoyed this show. We hope that y'all have enjoyed this 3-part series. Here's our very own Tim Fannin says, I've still not bush hogged my fields yet. Good job. Good man right there.
Yeah, he's not lazy. He's doing good work.
That's exactly right. Yeah, he's got wildlife in mind. We hope that you all get out and enjoy the great outdoors. Remember, go over to fw.ky.gov. All kinds of good stuff over there. Also, if you have not tuned in to our YouTube channel, please do so. That link's going to be here in the credits rolling here just in a few moments. We got a lot of great stuff on there. Be sure to subscribe. These lives will be on not only Facebook and also on our new YouTube channel. So hopefully everybody gets out. Hope everybody will listen and do some wildlife management. Remember, the curtilage law does not end. I'm trying my best to let everybody know the curtilage law does not end till July the 31st. It is legal to put out manufactured grain or manufactured mineral August 1st. Yes. Mineral sites are included in the curtilage law. Can't say that enough. That is, I've ran that by Fish and Wildlife Conservation officers. Don't be putting stuff out until August the 1st. Can't stress that enough. We appreciate y'all so much for tuning in.
You know what you can do?
What's that?
Create a sugar stump. Go cut you a tree. You can feed them that way.
There you go, man. That's exactly right. All natural.
All natural.
Yeah. Guys and gals, thank y'all so much. Remember, if you want to know the Creator, look at the creation, get out and enjoy what God has gave us. And I will hope to see you on air and outdoors with TLC Outfitters. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you next time next week.
Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, field of trees. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our